Hi, this is Dave, Gyroscope WERS FM, and we are backstage at Great Woods with Carlos Santana as promised. And gonna say hello to him right now. How are you doing this afternoon?
I am very grateful and happy to be here. It's beautiful weather we're having. I love it when it's hot and sweaty like this.
Enhances the music, no doubt. Well, I thought the first thing that we could talk about would be the new album. And one of the things I noticed first off was that this is the first on Polydor. Can you tell me about why there's a switch?
It was just time. It was time to leave Sony CBS. And because I needed my freedom, I needed my vision not to be impaired by somebody else's vision. And here with Polydor Polygram, I am allowed complete freedom. They believe in me, and they've been very, very helpful and instrumental in going above and beyond what record companies usually do. The next video that we just finished doing, the president, David Segerson, said, I want your heroes and your angels on it. I said, what? He says, your heroes and your angels. He says, tell them to me. Who are they? I said, John Coltrane, Miles Davis, Jimi Hendrix, Bob Marley. He says, that's what I want on the video also. So we just finished doing it, and it's great to be with a company that feels the way I feel, that quality and quantity can go together, and so it's really on time.
This is a video for which song?
Somewhere in Heaven.
Okay. That is a great song. Now, with this album, how was the recording done? I've heard that a lot of it was done live.
Yeah, absolutely. We just brought the whole band at the same time and just played. This is right after Bill and Miles left, so we were all full tank with emotion, as you can imagine,
And that would seem to, I guess, like recording live would enhance and let you really explode with emotion and have the emotion come through and into the music.
Right. As you know, musicians in the studio are like photographers. We take a photograph of the spirit. The spirit is very peculiar. It doesn't like to pose, so you gotta get it while you get it. Once you spend too much time on the guitar or the drums, and you go over this, you kill the song. You may got this guitar may sound great, but there's no more spirit or soul. So we sacrificed. I did sacrifice maybe some tones, different tones here and there on my guitar, but I didn't overdub. Whatever I did it while we did it, the first take, and that's it. And so it feels more honest, and it sounds more true.
There's a number of guest musicians on this album, and I was curious, how do you go about recruiting these people for the project, or do they come to you, or are there specific things you want to do with the songs?
There's specific things that I want to do with the songs, and I felt that at that time, Larry Graham, for example, doing Right On, I don't think anybody else could have done that song, either in the East Coast or in the West Coast. He's that type of musician and singer. Although Somewhere in Heaven, Alex did an incredible job, and also on Life is for Living, Tony Lindsay. That's basically it. We asked for some help from the lady Rebecca, who plays with John Santos. He plays great Afro-Cuban piano, and Waka Waka. But other than that, it's basically the band.
That's great. And another thing that I noticed a difference between Spirits and this album was that on Spirits, Jim Gaines had done the production, and on this, Chester and yourself had done it. Is this the first time that you both have produced one together?
Well, we produced Blues for Salvador, and we produced the other ones too. It's just that at that time we were working with Jim Gaines a lot. It's not that we're not working with Jim Gaines a lot, but I felt that it was important to set it straight that this time we produced it ourselves and he engineered it and mixed it. But producing means that we knew where we were going before we got to the studio, and after the studio we would reshape it, rework, add or subtract, for example, putting Martin Luther King as at the intro, Somewhere in Heaven. All that stuff was my idea. And,
it seems, it definitely seems like a very spiritual album, as most of the things that you do seem. And of course, this is dedicated to the late Bill Graham and Miles Davis. Could you talk about their impact and influence on you and your music and how you are now as a person?
there were two supreme lions. They never play by anybody's rules except their own. They have tenacity and conviction. Miles Davis taught me a lot, directly and indirectly, and the few times that we did talk over the phone that he would call me. He specifically had a beautiful way of being encouraging. He would never scratch me. As you know, Miles Davis had a reputation for being a Black Panther, and you can take your head off with a few comments if you didn't like certain things. But for some reason, he was very gracious to me and very encouraging. And the same thing with Bill. I believe that aside from obviously my parents and my wife, they were two of the most instrumental brothers who shaped my career directly and indirectly.
And back in October of 1991, after Bill Graham passed away, you and many musicians put together the Laughter, Love, and Music concert. And a lot of people here on the East Coast, it all happened so suddenly that a lot of us didn't really get to hear about the show and what it was like. Could you talk a little about that and kind of like share some of that with us, your personal experience there?
Every time we play at the park, in Golden Gate Park, it's something that Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, Cecil B. DeMille, all those people could never do. Because when you walk into the park and you listen to Miles Davis' Sketches of Spain, and you see Buddhist monks, Hells Angels, American Indians, hippies, squares, everything. And it just has a different vibration. It's kind of like dying and going to heaven, and it's like that. If it's not like that, I believe I will turn back. Because everything is there, and they're all like petals on a flower. It all just fits. The music just becomes incidental. Is the happening, the way people gather around together is, like I said, no movie producer could ever pay extras to behave like that. You have to pay extras to respond how they respond in the movie The Doors, But no, we never pay anybody to respond. They pay us to play, So it's a different kind of movie. It's real life. And both Ben and Jerry concert and the concert for Melissa Gold and Steve Killer Khan and Bill Graham it was the same within less than a month apart. And I'll never forget those. I'll always treasure those concerts. It's going to be very difficult, not impossible, but very difficult to maintain that consciousness or that vibration. Because Bill was really a ringleader, in a sense that he knew how to bring the best out of everybody, the audience and the performers. That's why he wasn't like he just wasn't even that guy from the 50s who used to work with Dick Clark before Dick Clark. It wasn't like that, In other words, he was more involved than just booking the band. He wanted to make sure that he knew that you better get your act together, so when you play, don't fumble the ball. You better play from your heart. And it was really, really beautiful. He always take notes. Like the last time he wanted me to go with him, we flew from Nevada to L.A. because he had Sting at the Wiltern for 5 days. And he was taking notes while Sting was doing his performance, and then he'd go backstage and he made sure the Sting would have eye contact, like to tell him, let me tell you where you fuck up, and Sting was trying to avoid it, because I was there, sorta, and so finally Sting said, but Bill had, you can't describe it over here, the microphone, but Bill has a beautiful way of going like,
I can see his
you
face.
know, and like so. Sting was like, okay, Bill, you know, just one, and he says, okay, just one, but it has A, B, C, D, and F. So you know, in other words, Bill was really involved beyond just booking the concert. You know, he was till the very last note. He wanted to make sure that people got more than their money's worth. You know.
Bill definitely seems like something at the core of you and a part of you now. Something else that is a part of you that I think is really pertinent to this show that we have, Gyroscope, and that is your roots and your heritage, and that you're Mexican. And a lot of people have been asking me, you know, when and how did Afro-Cuban music become such a strong influence on you and your music?
Right around 1966, 67. Before that, all the Latin music that I heard was not really appealing to me. It was okay, but it was kind of like Carmen Miranda and Desi Arnaz, I Love Lucy, kind of like second generation Cuban, which they're still Cuban, but it wasn't like, you know. So I thought that stuff was kind of corny, you know. To me, I wanted to hear Freddie King, B.B. King, Albert King, you know, the guitar twang, you know. That's, I guess, equivalent to what heavy metal people are today or rappers are today. You know, they don't want to hear. Until I heard Tito Puente and Eddie Palmieri and Mongo Santa Maria, then I said, wait a minute, what is this kind of music? And they said, well, this is Afro-Cuban music. I said, but this is so different than the other stuff. He says, well, this is the real stuff. And consequently, we used to go in San Francisco. There's a place called Aquatic Park where they always have like 10 to 20 Congo players. They drink wine, smoke pot, and look at the ladies go by with flutes, and you know, all day they just play and they sweat, and that's where we came from. I said, you know, we gotta take some of this stuff and put it into the blues, because at that time it was just blues. You know, John Mayall, Eric Clapton, Fleetwood Mac, Jimi Hendrix, they were all playing blues, maybe a little bit louder, but it was still the blues. Where we had the blues roots, but we were playing rhythms and made people dance, not just listen. And that's why the band at that time became sort of like what U2 is or was 2-3 years ago.
It's amazing that you've been having an effect on people, and you've been getting your message and your music to people from the 60s on, and there's only really a few bands from your early years that are still thriving and doing things. And you know, this summer alone, people like the Grateful Dead, Black Sabbath, the Allman Brothers are all releasing new albums, touring, and drawing large followings. And Santana as well seems to be having renewed interest and appeal. Do you think there's a return to roots and these kind of roots in music?
The young audience that are coming today, you're going to see them. They're 13, 12, 9, 6, a couple of months, and then there's people who over 60, over 30, over 40. At least it's been like that all through Europe since we've been playing. But the young ones are, first they come kind of like curiosity, like they want to see like a museum piece, until they hear the music, and then they realize that it's more alive than 99% of what they show on MTV. And I mean alive, because my band represents the pulse of the street. As Bill Graham put it, your band does not represent middle white America. Your band represents from Canada to Brazil all the ramifications of what a real America is about. And it took for him to open my eyes like that, because man, I don't even look at it like that. But once he said it, then it made me realize that it is true. There's very few bands like the Grateful Dead or Santana who just play music. We don't have a PhD on jazz or blues or bluegrass or anything like that, but we can touch on those things. So I think that the young people, they want heartfelt stuff that hits you in your vital, in your heart, in your mind. It makes your body move. And actually, it has just two things. This is what I see when the Grateful Dead are playing. You know, I see people dancing all the time. But I also see when we play that people cry and laugh at the same time. That's more important to me. Because when people cry and laugh at the same time, it will be supremely difficult, next to impossible, for these people to be anywhere in a state of suicide. There's a lot of people who are married or at least have made friends with frustration and depression, this is suicide. This will take you to suicide. Frustration and depression. And I believe my music has a sound that it makes people shake like a dog shakes the water off. They can shake it off and find other beautiful things in life to live for than just to settle for whatever you. In other words, it's not a mind reality, it's a heart reality that we're trying to turn them on to, because the mind is very treacherous. All minds. In the mind there's a lot of doubt, a lot of insecurity. And in the heart it's not like that. The heart just embraces and accepts and transforms. So what I strive for in my music, whether it's a Love Supreme or La Cucaracha or Black Magic Woman or Good Morning Little Schoolgirl, that doesn't matter. What matters is what you put inside the song that makes people's hair stand up and cry and laugh at the same time. That's more important to me than entertainment.
Do you see that taking it live and out into the public is your way of kind of interacting with people and of getting the music kind of out in the open, and it adds like a spontaneous element to it?
Yeah, absolutely. When you play in front of people, it's acknowledging the universal umbilical cord that we all have. And once you strike that, then you are no different than me in a sense that we have the same needs. Yes, you have your own fingerprints and your own uniqueness and individuality, but at the same time, there's something beautiful about accentuating multiplicity yet still retaining your uniqueness and individuality. It's not a contradiction. It's a reality to me. That's what music does to people. It makes you realize that you're an eagle instead of a turkey, so you can fly. Your imagination are your wings. You should use it. And that's what real music is about. It reminds people that we can fly. Your imagination are your wings. Don't let your mind take over, because then all you're going to see is just facts. That facts are very limiting. Einstein said imagination is infinitely more important than knowledge. I mean, so when somebody like Albert Einstein says that, it means something.
You've got the Santana band out on the road again. I've heard very few details about the tour. Could you tell me who's on the road with you this time?
C.T. Chester Thompson on keyboards, Raúl Rico conga percusión, Carl Perazzo timbalero, Walfredo de los Reyes on drums, Alex Litcherwood vocals, and a brand new bass player. His name is Myron Dobb from Palo Alto or San Jose, and I don't think I missed anybody, and myself.
So I'd be correct in saying that with the addition of the new bassist and with Carl on percussion, this is basically the same lineup that did the Spirits tour, except Armando is not in the band this time.
Right, and also Benny Rietveld is not here anymore.
Yeah, on bass. What is Armando up to these days, presently?
He's still at home, basically with his wife. She's very young and very beautiful. And when I call him, he says he's just been keeping to himself. He doesn't go out and play that much.
When you go out on the road, do you toss around a lot of different tunes that you're going to do on the tour? I mean, do you set up a basic format for a set, or just kind of let it happen? How does the set take place?
All of the above, Sometimes I want to get the musician's attention, so I'll totally change everything. I'll start from anywhere, and sometimes I feel like we need to wear certain things in for the bass player. But I usually change it a lot. It's important to keep in perspective that routine is death. You have to change it. You have to change it. Go home a different way. Try going home different ways.
Something to break the monotony.
Yeah, like I said, routine is death. So you have to do things to keep things effervescent instead of becoming flat. Like a soda, you gotta keep things bubbling.
You've been playing for the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and now the 90s. What is your message today, and what do you see for the future, Carlos?
My message for today is no more borders, no more flags, no more national anthems. Just one family. It was one huge, beautiful family where we all, kind of like the Three Musketeers, one for all and all for one. I would like to see us wake up to conditions that astronauts wake up when they're out there hanging around for 3 days and they get to see this beautiful planet as one womb, a beautiful womb. Up there you don't see flags or borders or none of that. You see one child, humanity, and the womb is the planet. So, I don't buy that stuff anymore. I just don't buy that so-called patriotism. To me, I'd rather do what the American Indians do, which is grab the earth, smell it, and by that I can tell whether it's going to rain or not. I don't need to see the weather report. In other words, we all need to go back forward by getting in touch with the main mother, the earth, instead of following these politicians and these so-called religious leaders, which is the same thing. It's a corrupt business either way. I know a lot of people don't want to hear this stuff, but hey, somebody's
It's real.
got to tell you.
It's an election year, and a lot of people don't feel very good about that. How do you feel about that?
Basically, I think it's like the wrestlings. I pay as much attention to politics as I do to the wrestlings, which is none at all. It's a lot of sweating, a lot of yelling, and a lot of promises, and they all sound the same. They sound like pigs. And all they left a trail is a trail of broken promises. So they're not my reality. I don't think that they can. In fact, if they all pass away, and I don't mean violently, the earth is going to go on. So I don't know why they presume so much. That popes or religious leaders or presidents. I don't know why they presume so much, because nobody really needs them. To the trees are going to grow, the springs are going to come, the birds are going to fly. You and I are going to eat because the earth is going to feed us. So this is my reality. It may be naive, but it's very real to me. Their reality is their reality, and their reality to me would be a nightmare if I start depending on their reality. They do not affect me, except that they take me more taxes. I probably pay more taxes than the President of the United States. So that's why I say what I say. Because I have a right to say what I say.
You do.
Well,
I have one more question, and I think it's a good one to end on. A lot of things have changed in the world. One of them is the way technology has affected communication. A long time ago, if a piece of music were produced in Africa, it may take years before people outside of Africa would hear it. And now with technology, producers are in there, record companies are in there, and the music is instantly accessible and brought to the public in many different parts of the world. What do you think about this effect on the music?
I think it's good. As you know, the future for tomorrow, it comes from Latin America and Africa, or anywhere in the streets, the real streets. The Grateful Dead is a street band, like myself. We just happen to be more fortunate than the guys who work in front of Macy's, but that's the kind of people that we are. They don't presume to be anything else, and neither do I. They might say, well, maybe I don't have the right to speak for them, but as a musician, I think I can. And to me, they're street musicians, just like me. We're both street musicians, and we just play music on the street. We call it street social music. If you want to put a label to it, street social music.
That sounds like a good label. Well, I'd like to thank you for taking your time to speak with us, and it has certainly been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, and I hope the politicians and religious leaders will forgive me for pulling out my sword of truth.